All right, today's video we're going to be going over depth drops or drop jumps, whatever you might call them. But these are jumps where we're incorporating a landing phase, a transition phase, and a takeoff phase, okay? So these are really great jumps. The definition of like a true plyometric is when it consists of all three phases. So whether it's a repeat jump or a depth jump, these are the gold standard and the highest progression of your true plyometric exercises, okay? So let's go over kind of the three different phases and how you can progress your training in each. Okay, so as I kind of just noted, phase one is the landing phase. Now, why we should add or start at a higher height is because we're trying to overload or increase the amount of force that is required to land. So if I bring myself up higher on a box, my center of mass is accelerating with gravity because of the higher height, which is going to make the impact more forceful, okay? So if I was to just do a normal jump, I'm not accelerating my mass anymore because I'm just starting here and it's going down maybe 6 to 10 inches. Whereas if I go higher and higher, the longer I have to drop, the more my center of mass is going to accelerate. So phase one, whenever you're starting to learn these type of plyometrics, is always going to be getting better at the landing phase and absorbing those forces. So starting pretty low, I've got the 12-inch box here. You could even start from a 6, just depends on where you're starting these from. But you always want to start with landing on 2 legs. And the goal here is to be, once you hit the floor, you don't want your center of mass to drop anymore. So just think your chest is going to stay where it is. So as you step off, I'm going to prepare to land, stop myself. And you can kind of hear the turf make some sound, and that's me pushing down into it to stop myself. If I didn't, I would step off, and if I was relaxed, I would just kind of drop more into a squat. But the goal with these jumps is to, as you land, you want to stick it so your joint angles don't move any further. So I'm going to drop, stop. Okay? Now, once you get pretty competent with 2 legs, a simple progression would be now to drop to 1 leg. So not only my body weight has an accelerated amount of force because I'm dropping off the box, but now I'm absorbing all of it onto 1 leg, and I need to stabilize in order for me not to fall over, right? So really good for balance, especially if you've just injured a limb and you want to get that stability back and that confidence to kind of reintegrate back into activities or sport. So, yep, single leg, okay? And then from here, progressing it further would just be being able to go up higher. Now, you've seen people take this to the extreme, whether it's like a parkour athlete or just a really specific type of training. The higher you go, the more force you need to absorb. Obviously, the higher you go and the more force you need to absorb, the more likely you might get hurt doing the exercise. So always kind of work your way up in chunks. Here's a video of me doing a high box drop. And again, feel really confident with this, but it's still, as I step, I'm just absorbing way more force, putting the brakes on right away, okay? So that's kind of the eccentric component of the exercise, or the landing portion. The time you spend on the floor, there's a quick isometric muscle action from a lot of the muscular system, but ideally with these, it's best to try to spend as little time on the floor as possible, because that is trying to train not only our brain and everything that goes into the movement on producing force quick. The goal with depth jumps, 85% of the time is to increase your relative strength to body weight and how much force you can produce in a short amount of time, okay? So the time on the ground really isn't too specific. Just try to get on and off quick. As you get better at these, that should be your main goal. Now the takeoff, as you start to incorporate all 3 phases, so the drop, the landing, and then the up, you always want to start small again. So if you can only jump, let's say 10 inches, then I wouldn't start with the 12-inch box, because your jump height or your takeoff or your concentric muscle action is going to be less than the eccentric, okay? So as you step, the goal here is the same. I know how to land because I've spent weeks working on my landings. Now I'm getting better at my transition into force production, which is my jump. So same cues, I'm landing, I'm preparing to land. When I hit the turf, I'm redirecting that force back up. So you can drop, land, quick up, okay? Now I want to think my arm should swing up to help me generate more momentum up, because my goal is to overcome gravity in a vertical vector, okay? So dropping, hands are up, I land, quick up, okay? So you can see I'm really trying to spend as little amount of time on the ground as possible. Now, the same with the landings. We could add weight to these to help overload both muscle actions more. If I'm holding external weight, that's going to add to my mass, and that's going to accelerate more as I achieve this exercise. Or another progression would be to just go higher on the box. Now, again, more skill involved as you keep progressing the movement, but it's always good to kind of keep yourself progressing in your training. And a simple way of looking at it is I'm either progressing the eccentric or the concentric. But that's why the depth jumps are so great, is because it incorporates both. Okay, so as you step off, a little more challenging, drop, and up. Now you could cue these as fast as possible. This is getting pretty specific, but you could also go spend a little longer on the ground if you want to get more force output. Okay, so when you spend as little as possible on the ground, as I just shown there, it's not necessarily going to be your highest output jump in terms of height, but the skill we're trying to work on is rate of force development, producing as much force as you can in as little time as possible, and becoming better at quickly absorbing the force from the landing, transitioning that force into our jump upwards, okay, which has a lot of carryover, obviously, to most things athletic in sports, or just being able to handle falls or anything else in maybe specific activities in your life, in day-to-day tasks, okay? So that's kind of a video recapping the depth jumps. Hopefully that helps. But if you haven't done these in your training, lifting weights is obviously really good and beneficial for our physical health, but incorporating this style of plyometric training will also do you huge benefits just to build a strong and stable body. So hopefully that helps. Give them a shot.